So let me share my screen. So we have now enough people, so we can start with the session. So you can just let me know.
Yeah, Jitendra, we can see.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So guys, welcome to Surat MuleSoft Meetup, and this is our 8th meetup, and plus we have already done a 3 live demonstration meetup. So overall, this is the 11th Surat MuleSoft Meetup, and in today's meetup, like we will going to discuss about Anypoint business group and connected apps and dynamic client registration. So these are the 3 topics we will going to discuss. Yeah. So basically, like. We heard a lot about the what is Anypoint business group, what are the connected apps, what is the dynamic client registration. So what is the importance of the business group, that we will going to discuss in this particular session. So about myself, like I am working as a senior solution architect at a Capgemini, and currently I am the Surat MuleSoft Meetup. And overall, like I have 12.5 years in the integration and the API technology, and I am the MuleSoft certified architect. Yeah, Nitish, you want to go?
Yeah, sure, Jackie. Thank you. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Nitish. I'm working as a consultant application developer at IBM Bangalore, and I'm also a MuleSoft Meetup leader with Jackie. I have 2.5 years of experience in MuleSoft, and I'm certified MuleSoft developer and MCI architect. Yeah.
Thanks, Nitish.
Thank you.
So, like speaker for today's session is the Vikram Reddy. So basically, it was his first event in the MuleSoft community. So like at least he will be talking for the first time. So and he will be going to cover Anypoint business group. So Vikram, would you like to introduce yourself? Hello.
Hi everyone, welcome to. So myself Vikram. So I'm working as a senior solution architect at Apple. So I'll be also working as a delivery manager for leading FMCG client. So I do have 13 years of IT experience. I think Jackie is very nice to me. So we added just 2 years.
No, but you have like overall 15 years of experience, right? In the industries, basically, right? You have some
No, it's 13 only.
Okay, yeah.
So 2 years later, whatever you projected, that becomes true.
Yeah.
So again, coming to MuleSoft experience, so I have 4 years of MuleSoft experience, and I'm certified MuleSoft integration and platform architect. That's about me. Thank you.
So I will add something more about Vikram. So like Vikram is like very good in doing all this platform architectures and like integration architectures. He has set up a big platforms and everything, in his career in last 4 years basically, and he's handling various bigger clients also basically. Yeah. Okay. So let me go with yeah. So let me go with other speaker who will be talking about, Anypoint connected apps. So we will see how we can use the Anypoint connected apps to deploy your application into the MuleSoft Cloud Hub basically. And they will also discuss about like what are the advantage and what are the what you can get it from the Anypoint connected apps basically. So Supriya, you want to go first?
Thank you so much, Jitendra. So, hello everyone. So, as Jitendra mentioned, we are going to speak about the connected app. But before that, I would like to introduce myself. So, I'm working in Accenture since last 7 years, and I have 7 years of experience in IT industry. All my experience in the middleware technologies only. I'm a certified MuleSoft developer, integration architect also, and platform architect also. I've completed last year, and I am a coaching MuleSoft leader too. And today we will speak about connected apps, but before that we'll take introduction from Sumit.
Yeah, Sumit, can you go ahead?
Sure, thank you, Jitendra. So about myself, my name is Sumit Ahuja. First of all, a very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for joining the session. I have total 5+ years of experience in Accenture only and various integrations in API technologies. I'm also a certified developer plus the architect. This is my first meetup in Surat. However, I have accomplished participated as a speaker a couple of times in Mumbai MuleSoft. Yeah, so looking forward to have a good time with you all. Thank you.
Yeah. So just I will add more about Supriya and Sumit. Like they are working in the Accenture at a Mumbai location, and like generally, so they have already talked in the Mumbai meetups for multiple times. Basically, I think on the Splunk logging framework and all those things, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
So
Jitendra.
yeah. So then there's a one more topic that I will be going to discuss, that is a dynamic client registration. So basically we will take Okta as our OAuth provider and how we can achieve a dynamic client registration. This will be more of a live demonstration, like where how we can set up a dynamic client registration, how we can generate the token, how we can apply a dynamic open ID, connect policies and all those things. Okay. So the agenda is like we will start with I think we will start with business group, then connected app, and then dynamic client registration. So I would like to hand over this session to Vikram. So now Vikram will take it from there. Vikram, would you like to share your screen, or like I keep sharing basically? I think better you
That's
share
fine.
it, right?
I will share. Yeah, I will
Yeah,
share.
yeah, yeah. Thanks. Let me first unshare Vikram, then you can start. Yeah, yeah, Vikram.
Yeah, let me know once you can see my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen now.
Yes, Vikram.
Yeah. So let's get started. So again, it's a first meetup as a speaker for me. So it's like I would need your feedback. So in future, if I can improve with your feedback. So I would like to make it bit interactive session. So I don't want to like completely on one side. So I'll have some questions. So you can ask me questions. So if you have anything in between, you can post in the chat as well. So let's get started. So anyone just tell me, why do we need business groups? And actually we can just live without business groups. So you can create environments and we can work on that, deploying applications or creating assets, right? So why do we basically need a business group? Hello.
What I have, hello, Vikram.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
this
hear
is. Yeah. So I could be wrong, but what I've heard about the business group is now in particular project also there could be a different type of business. One business is particularly restricted to the customer usage. Then there is something which is related to the accounts. So such a distinguish could happen within a project or within I mean whatever whatever APIs you are trying to deploy. So
you. Okay.
for that, we can divide it into the different business. So that will be a great identifier for
Mhm.
understanding that this particular business group's API will handle maybe account related, or this group will handle the customer related APIs, something like that.
Okay, so you're partially true. So it's whatever you're saying, like we can delegate this business group based on projects. So partially true, but let's look into it. So I'm jumping into the next slide. So why do we, what is a business group basically? So it contains the resources, platform resources, or applications with respect to one platform. So it's basically container. So I'll give you a generic example. So assume like you have an open space where you need to build one maybe apartment or villa. So basically, whenever you say we are getting an org, so it's a kind of, it's nothing but an empty space. So you can relate with empty plot you have, so that you will be, whenever you have something, so you can correlate with that one. So the generic example, you have an empty space, and based on your cost, budget, planning, so you will be deciding what exactly you need to construct there. So when it comes to MuleSoft org also, it's nothing but an empty space for you, which is allocated in cloud. So you will decide based on the organization style. So how many vCodes you have, what are your business LOBs. So based on these factors, you will decide how my business groups are going to be created and how I'll manage. So there could be like same space you can build a villa or you can build an apartment. So when you're building apartment, your ways of working will be different. So you will be giving access to different floors. So that way you can manage. So similarly, when you are building a villa, so the entire access can be controlled at one point of time. And coming to the Anypoint platform, it's a similar way. So you have multiple teams. So it can be like a multi-vendor onboarded to the same platform. So you would like to restrict access for each individual team. So then you can go ahead with multiple business groups, and they can own their VPCs, they can own their VPN, DLVs, static IPs, vCores. So all these will be coming into VPN setup. And basically to control the access at user level, so we need business groups, and only org admin will have access to create, modify, delete business groups. So these are the components which we'll be allocating when we are creating a business group. So that's vCores, basically for prod, sandbox, and design, and static IPs, VPC, VPN. So whatever we need for that business group can be used here. So for more details, you can refer the URL mentioned here. Okay. So then let's look into why and when do we create business groups. Okay. So as I mentioned, like it's fine-grained control over access. So you can limit the access at each individual team level or group level, and complete isolation of platform resources. So when I say complete isolation, so basically you can allocate a VPC, VPN, how many number of VPCs required for this particular business group, how many number of VPNs required for this particular business group, how many static IPs they need. So that can be changed at later point of time, but still you can control the access. So that's isolation of complete platform resources. Also, it's like whenever you are publishing an asset to exchange, so the respective business group can hold, and that will not be visible to other business groups. So the next point is like it's allows to delegate management and administration of platform resources like APIs. It may be APIs, applications. So if you would like to create child business groups, so all these can be done, and you can create users, you can invite the users to that particular child group, and then you can assign a role for them, and they will have only visibility access to that particular environment. Any questions here before we get into next section?
Not really, Vikram.
Okay, I think this is a simple topic, so maybe everyone is clear with the, I'm assuming everyone is clear with the business group creations and all. So when I'm playing live demo, if you have any questions, we can answer that one. So a typical hierarchy, how it look like, Anypoint BG hierarchy. So basically you have a master arc. So you can see here. So this is your master arc. So in that case, it's like you will have line of business 1, 2, 3. So whenever your organization is coming up with what are the line of business they have, so it's recommended to go ahead with line of business. So that will be your parent business group. So under that one, so you can create multiple child business groups, but try to avoid creating like granular business groups. So this will create at later point of time you would like to move, or you would like to move the assets from lower, then it becomes very clumsy and you will not be able to manage. So personally, I will not recommend creating lower level sub business groups. So you can stop it at one level. So whenever you are preparing, I mean, the designing the business groups for any organization, so first you need to see what is their roadmap, at least for maybe 5 years or 10 years down the line, how they would like to see themselves. So based on their key pillars, verticals, you need to create the line of business. Under that one, if you have any specific requirements like, okay, I am going to create this business group since I'm onboarding a new team who can manage this particular subgroup, then only it's recommended to go ahead with new business group. Otherwise, you can create environments with proper naming conventions and you can use them. So any questions on this one? Because most of the teams,
one question is there. So does a child
Yeah.
business group inherit the parent business group characteristics?
So basically, whenever you are creating a child business groups, it won't inherit any of the properties. So whatever you need to allocate, like the here I'm creating LOB1, and you are allocating 10 workers over there. I mean 10 vehicles over there. So if you are trying to create a child business group LOB 1.1, so basically it won't get any resources automatically. You, whenever you are creating this business group, you need to add all the vCores, VPNs, whatever required for this particular sub business group, and whatever we are creating roles, permissions, whatever are there. So that has to be created once again. So we can't inherit anything, but if you are adding a user at LOB1, definitely that user will have a visibility to LOB 1.1 as well. So it's like a top to bottom approach. So whenever you are onboarding a user at parent business group, definitely they will have access to the lower business group. But when you're onboarding a resource at lower business group, you will not have any access to the parent business groups. I hope you have answered your question.
There are a few questions also, like the sum, like the,
Yeah.
so basically it's basically on the like somebody asked me the parent business group can be multiple or single, but as per me the organization can be one, right? Under there can be multiple parent business group, like
yeah, multiple parent group. So that's what I'm showing here, right?
Correct.
So this is parent business group. So you can have multiple parent business groups. So again, you can have multiple child business groups as well, but it's recommended to stop at one level, so that whenever you are trying to assign a worker vCore here, L 1.1.1, so first you need to assign here, then you need to bring it to this particular business group, and then only you can bring it here. So that adds complexity in your design,
correct.
right?
There's other question, guys. Like I enabled the mic for everyone. You can speak also, okay? So like no need to write. Also, basically you can talk. So there are other question like the sum number of vCores allocated by LO, total number of vCores of your license agreement.
Yes, absolutely. So whatever master arc he is having, so that can only be splitted here. So you can't add more number of vCores into this parent groups. So assume like you have 100 vCores for your master arc. So if you're allocating 50 for LOB1, so only that 50 can be shared by LOB 1.1 or 1.2, and the remaining 50 can be shared across LOB2 and LOB3. When I'm playing a demo, I think we can cover all these points.
So,
I have already done.
Vinit, definitely one business group can have n number of APIs. You can deploy, and it depends on the vCore basically. If you are assigning like two vCores to one LOB, right? So you can deploy up to 20 APIs basically if you are assigning the 0.1 vCore. It core you allocated to particular that LOB, right, Vikram?
Yes, so basically whatever vCores we are allocating, so if number of APIs, there is no restriction with respect to business groups. You can deploy n number of APIs, and you can you have a luxury to combine them into one application and deploy into 0.1 into one worker or something like that. But we need to consider, I mean, next slide I'll be covering the limitations. So there are something like whenever you are creating a business group, so we have a hard limit of 100 business groups, so which I'll be covering in the next slide. And also whenever you are creating environments, so each business group can have only 150 environments maximum. So generally we restrict with 4 or 5 environments. But in these scenarios like LOB 1.1.1, so you have a programs, you would like to restrict at environment level. So go ahead with environment creation, not a business group creation. So that can be done.
Yeah. So Vikram, you cover all the questions. You can go.
Yeah. So let's look at limitations. So as I mentioned, any ARG, so irrespective of license type, whatever you have platinum, titanium, doesn't matter. So there is a hard limit of 100 business groups per organization. So that's the reason this is going to be very crucial point to decide how we are going to plan your strategy for next 10 years or 15 years down the line. So initial planning should be done perfectly. Otherwise, the re-arg is going to be a problem. So whenever you try to move assets from one business group to another business groups, so you'll be using API IDs. Again, there could be some effort at business where you need to reconfigure, redeploy the applications. So that can lead to regression issues. So always plan ahead and then you can achieve it properly. So 100 business groups is too huge. So again, one more thing. So this 100 limit is across parent business groups as well as child business groups. So if I'm creating here, so basically I have totally 5 business groups. So I'm not considering 1.1.1, which is marked in red. So I have total 5 business groups for this particular org. So even if we are trying to create child business groups, that will be considered as one business groups. So this count has to be the maximum limit for this count is 100. So beyond that, you can't create anything. So we don't have that provision right now. I hope something can be done in future. And the next limitation,
Vikram,
so whatever role,
Vikram, one thing, like,
yeah.
can we add like something like if some API is deployed in one business group and API is deployed in other business group, so how they can communicate with each other? If we can add something on this, no, it will be useful basically.
So assume like you have something created in LOB1 and you would like to access that particular in LOB2 as well. So basically the best way to do this one is you can create a common a business group, so which can be used across the teams. So it becomes like a generic one. So generic business group maybe as common as utilities business group or something. So where you can publish all the reusable assets with respect to your organization, and then you can deploy all these applications over there, and you can consume the services from that one. Yeah. Okay. The next one is the roles, environments, whatever you are creating in one business group. So that can't be copied. So there is no provision. So you need to create roles, environments, whatever you are creating in one business group. So if you're adding another business group, this is going to be another new exercise. So we don't have any automated way as of now. But definitely there is a provision. So you can use platform APIs. So that platform APIs, if you are trying to execute using this Postman or SOAP UI, then definitely you can create without touching the Anypoint. But generally, people will try to do it from the UI, Anypoint UI. So we don't have any clone option as of now. And the third one is like, as I mentioned, assets and resources. So whatever you're allocating for that particular business group can't be shared across, can't be shared and used across the business groups. So whenever you create one particular asset, so that will be restricted to that one. If you need to use the same asset for other business group, so it has to be generic, and that endpoint has to be exposed for other business groups so that they can consume the services. Okay, so these are the limitations. Any questions or limitations? So this is the main one we need to remember. So 100 business groups per org is a hard limit. So beyond that, you can't create any of the business groups. So I heard a couple of organizations already reaching, like even where we are working also, we are reaching the to limit. So then we re-looked into the structures and we have eliminated unnecessary business groups. So that's a big exercise altogether. So that's why avoid creating unnecessary business group until unless there is a genuine use case. Okay, if no questions, let's get into a live demo. Okay, let me start with okay, so this is my personal one. So I was trying to set up something like this. So is it correct way? So somebody can answer me, like I have, this is my own one. So I would like to create something like that. Do you feel this is the correct way to create a business orgs? Hello, am I audible?
We can go.
Yeah. So basically here, if you look at, so let me delete all of them and then we can start from the scratch. There is a business group already. Okay. So basically, what I was trying to achieve is, so I have an e-commerce platform. So where I need to onboard multiple teams. So under that one, Shopify is one team. So I am trying to create a new business group with respect to they have some of the constraints, they need to deploy their applications with respect to geography. So where I would like to create a VPC for them, and they can manage their particular VPC, VPN, and DLB channels. So in that scenario, I can go ahead and create one particular business group. Otherwise, all my e-commerce apps can be deployed into the parent business group. So tomorrow there is another program, there is an integration with Magento. So Magento is another e-commerce platform where I need to deploy all these applications, but they are happy to go ahead with the VPC, VPN, whatever existing. So then in that case, I would not recommend to create a new business group. I'll ask them to create environments in this particular e-commerce. So I'll provision the environments for them. So I'll create users and onboard the particular users to that particular environment so that they can just limit their access at parent business group level. But at the same time, Shopify team would like to handle their DLB. They have a requirement saying our security has to be specific. So we do have some security concerns where we need to handle our particular certificates. So in that case, so we can create a sub business group under e-commerce platform, and then that particular business group will have access to restricted team, and they can handle the particular business group itself. So they will not have any access to e-commerce. So they will have access to only Shopify. So let me try to create. So I was saying about assets, right? So if you look at here, so this is personal account which is expired, so I'm not able to showcase. So I'll showcase in my company account. So I can have all the vCores allocated here. So suppose I'm trying right now, you can see here there are no vCores allocated for this one, for this particular business group. But when I go ahead here, so I am allocating 0.5 vCore for this one. Then that 0.5 vCore will be available for this particular business group. You can see, right? So previously it was not showing any of the vCores here. So once I allocate 0.5 vCores to the parent business group, that 0.5 will be available for the child business group. So I can consume only 0.5. So I can't consume beyond that one. So if I'm trying to create it for 0.3, the remaining point, so whatever we allocated 0.5 out of that one, 0.3 will be allocated to this one. So I can't use more than 0.3 into the parent business group. So here I'll be restricting only for 0.2, and in future if required I'll extend, otherwise no. So another point, so when I'm trying to create a new business group, okay, let me start from here. So assume I'm creating a test business group. So user, you will be selecting who is the owner for that business group. And there is an option called owner can create business group. So if you are making someone as owner for this particular business group, suppose I'm creating for Shopify, and I'm asked, there will be a spark from that particular program. So I'll be making him as an owner. So if he needs to create sub business group, yes, he can do, but definitely he has to follow the organization guidelines. And same time, you need to allow him to create environments as well. So if you don't check this unbox, basically they can't create any new environments. So if you would like to restrict access of creating business groups, so you can just uncheck these two boxes. So whatever admin is creating, so in those only business groups can be available and environments can be available. So they can't create any new business groups or environments. There is another option called, I think it's not showing here. Let me showcase in. So there is another option called enable global deployments. So basically, whenever you are trying to create this particular one, there is another option called enable cloud up global deployment. So if you are not enabling this particular feature, basically it is going to restrict for whatever business group you are creating, default region it will take. So all your applications, all your VPCs will be created in that particular region. So this is the one mistake mostly people will be doing. So whenever they create a new business group, so they need to check this box. Otherwise, you will not be able to create. You will not be able to deploy your applications into multiple regions, and whatever VPC, VPN you are creating, that will be specific to the business group region. So this has to be noted. So I was showcasing, right? So the production vCore, sandbox vCores, design vCores. So whatever we are trying to set here when we are creating a business group, so all these will be applicable only for the child business groups, and they can consume only that one. Like, we don't have any VPCs to showcase here, but if you have VPCs, so you can allocate like partially to the respective business groups, and VPNs can be allocated to the respective business group. So that's about business group creation. So once you create that business group, it looks like this. So whenever you have one asset, so basically you can't delete that particular business group. So if you have an API, if you have an application deployed in that particular business group, you can't delete. And also, like so if you have anything under this one, so you can't delete this particular business group any point of time. So you have sub business groups or something, so our assets lying in that particular business group, you can't delete the business group. And the deletion can happen only with the org admin. So as I mentioned, delete, create, modification can happen only with the org admin. So none other can delete this particular business groups. And one more thing, so here the master business group, whatever we are trying to create, the org, so this can't be deleted at any point of time, but at the same time the name can be changed, and domain can be changed, and the owner can be changed. So in case your organization, like whoever is managing the platform, so he is being replaced by some new person, so then in that case you just need to come here, so you can select the master org, so you will change the owner here. So once you change that one, so it will be applicable across all the business groups. So this will be updated in all the business groups wherever the same name is reflecting, so it can be updated. So looks like that's all from my end. So if you have any,
Yeah, anybody have any question, like you can ask Vikram, like, no, so he can clear.
Vikram, Karthik here. What is an organization domain?
hi. So organization domain is basically will be used in the background. So I am not familiar how it is going to be used. Haven't done research behind that one, but I haven't seen any key role playing with this value. So I'm not sure. Maybe Jackie, if you know, you can add.
So Vikram, is
Yeah.
there a time when such a scenario occurs wherein suppose vCore is already assigned, for example, two vCores, okay, and then what we do is we keep on adding a business group. Then will it give us the error that maybe the exceeded the number of
No.
vCores in the
So
particular?
yeah, I got it. I got your question. So basically, whenever you are trying to create business groups, so it won't give any error, but you will not be able to allocate. So if you look at this one, so assume like I have one vCore I've already allocated for this particular business.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to create another sub business group under this one. So assume like I've already consumed 0.2 vCores in the earlier one. So even with that one, so I can create a new business group. So it won't give any error. Sorry.
But then while deploying the API in that particular business group,
Yes.
we will not be able to deploy.
Yeah. So unless you allocate that 0.2 here, you will not be able to deploy any application in that particular business group. So you can create a business group. So even with the 0 vCores, but when you are trying to deploy, so it will throw you an error like insufficient vCores are available. So that has to be updated once again here.
Yeah. Ask me question about that organization domain, right? So I can give one of the example where the organization domain is useful. So let's consider when you are trying to access a developer portal, right? So like each organization can have its own developer portal, basically. Like or like a parent business group have some developer portal, parent business group to have a developer portal, basically, right? If you see that URL, the developer portal URL, in that there is a domain, basically. So if you want to access a specific developer portal for org1, so you will find that domain in that particular URL. I will show in my demo, in when we will see the dynamic client registration, I will show where the domain come into picture, basically. Okay, so it mostly, I have seen one of the use cases, that is the developer portal. In developer portal, it use that domain in the URL to access the developer portal for that particular organization, basically.
So is it
That is one of
required?
the example.
Yeah, but if you define domain here, Vikram, so is it
Sorry, I was not
100%
aware of this.
domain?
Can we have multiple owners for one business group?
Good question. So we haven't tried, but I don't think it will be possible. Let me check one second.
Vikram, on the same grounds, the question is that suppose the owner, whoever is, suppose our platform architect, he is only, or probably he leaves the organization in a hypothetical situation, then this is required, right? Then we should have co-owners also to that, will have the similar type of accesses.
So basically, what you can do, basically, Vikram, I don't think there can be multiple owner. I don't think so. So basically, I am not. I am 100% sure. Like if you see at the main organization, right? So that organization also have a one owner only, and the business group will have also one owner. But you can provide access like or organization administrator. Those kind of access can be provided by default, and it will also become owner, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not feasible. So just try. So only one owner will be there for a particular business group. So as Jackie mentioned, so definitely our admin role can be created and multiple users can be onboarded.
Right. Okay.
Any other question? So probably all org domain will be in the external access tab, right? Roy, as I mentioned, developer portal, right? It's one of the external access. Yeah, right. Yeah. Admin or master. I think we have covered all the questions. Yeah.
Yes.
Other question before we start with next topic.
Can we share
Hi,
VPC
Jitendra,
across
just
the
one
business
question
group?
from my side.
Okay.
So can
So
application deployed in
it was like a good session, and we got some of the good information on this Anypoint business group. So I think like most of the people doesn't know how like to use the Anypoint business group. So after this session, we got some knowledge, like we can have a multiple business group, and why we can have a multiple business group, and what is the importance of this business group, and what are the limitations. So that is the great session, and it will definitely help most of the people, so when they are architecting their platform solution, basically, yeah. Thank you, Vikram, for the session. Yeah. So
Vikram?
Thanks, Jackie.
I will go like next
Hello?
with Sumit and Supriya Pawar, who will be discussing on Anypoint connected apps. So Supriya and Sumit, you can take you
Oh,
can take the
yes,
session
yes.
ahead.
Definitely, Jitendra. Thank you so much. And Sumit, can you please share your screen?
Hello, we can't hear
Hello,
you, Supriya.
I am speaking. Hello,
Sumit.
hello. I'm
Yes,
speaking.
yes, Supriya. Yes, Supriya, you are audible.
Jitendra, I'm speaking. Like, am I still not audible to you? Hello,
You are
Yes,
am I
audible.
Supriya.
am I audible to rest of the people? Yeah, Nitish, I'm able
Yes.
to hear your voice.
Okay.
Okay, fine. So thanks, Sumit, for sharing the screen. Guys,
Sorry
as
for the your voice is
uh-huh,
breaking up.
my voice is breaking.
Yeah,
Hello.
it's not clear enough.
I will quickly rejoin. I think that is something which I can do.
Jitendra?
Just give me one
Hello? Jitendra, can you hear me?
Hello, Nitish. Am I audible now? Hello.
Yes, Supriya. Yes, Supriya. You are audible.
Am I audible? Is it breaking still?
No, it's fine for me.
Okay, fine. I'll consider probably it is fine for rest of the people also. And yeah, so as we discussed, as Jitendra has given you the brief that we are going to discuss about the connected apps. So before starting, what is connected apps? Is anybody aware that how the connected apps is used, or probably they are using in their project? Anybody would like to answer about it?
App is something like where user authentication is not required every time, like WhatsApp message for account balance.
Mhm. And anyone else? Okay, so I'll just start with the topic. I'll start with the definition. So please, next slide. Yeah. So as you can see, the definition itself, it says that it provides a framework using which external applications can integrate with any point platform. Now, let us suppose that when we deploy the API, we definitely have some username and password, which are the details which we have as a user to that Anypoint platform. That is something which we receive from the administrator. Now, we want to provide it to some external applications. Directly sensitive details we cannot provide. Instead of that, we have an approach called connected apps, using which we can create some credentials for them and we can share those credentials. Having said that, they will not have the access to the entire Anypoint platform, but the access will be restricted to the particular APIs which an administrator is choosing for the external applications. So that is, in a simple language, that is a connected app. We'll talk about the advantages of connected app, but before that, like as I mentioned, this feature also enables you to use a secure authentication protocols, and it controls an application's access to user data. End user in this case can authorize the application to access the Anypoint platform. Okay, this is basically connected apps, and this authentication as of now is supporting OAuth 2.0 and the OpenID Connect. Now we'll move on and we'll talk about few of the advantages. Now, as I discussed, access can be shared without the sensitive credentials. As you know, if you deploy any of the API, you will have certain username password which either you provide in your setting file or you add it in a POM file. But in this situation, we do not have to provide those sensitive credentials. Instead, we will create credentials using the connected apps, which we will take up as a demo part, and we will show you how to create it. So that is the primary advantage of this. On top of that, full control rights of the third parties can be controlled. During the demo, we will also show you that the access is not necessary that it will be to the entire Anypoint platform. There are multiple factors. For example, exchange, runtime manager, application manager. So how we can avoid the full control rights there? We will choose that particular app. If we are creating, we'll be selecting that if the access should given to only runtime manager or API manager or exchange, something like that. Next is connected apps usage is tracked and auditable. Definitely it is only to the administrator. The access which is given, that can be revoked later point of time. Revoking the granted access will not require to change their password. This also we will see that how username password, it is something we are giving, and then after we revoke the access, we don't have to change this. And that password can be changed without having an update to the other systems, meaning the systems which are trying to connect to Anypoint platform. Next slide, Sumit. Yeah. Now the usage for is a connected apps for organization administrator, connected apps for developers, and connected apps for end users. Here in all three topics, we are talking about connected apps, but we are talking about what exactly the usage of an organization administrator, then developers, and then the end users. As I'm talking about the administrator, we will also talk about what things we have to keep in mind while while using it as an administrator. So as an organization administrator, administrator will have the view and a manage access to connected apps in the access management. Okay, and administrator is somebody who can restrict the accesses also. So if you can go into next slide. These are some things which needs to keep in mind while using the connected apps or managing the connected apps. So as in one organization, 200 connected apps is the limit which you can create. Administrator of the organization will have access to check all the applications. Only administrator can disable or whitelist the specific connected apps. Having said that, this will give access, this will give authority to the particular user, that only that user whose IPs is whitelist can use that connected apps. Then use of a client grant type application made for your team. Now let me talk about this in this way, that app owner, if he or she leaves that company, the application will continue to work without any interruption. Okay, once an application is created, it's assigned a client ID which cannot be changed, as I was talking about in the earlier slide, which was about the password. So in this, the assigned client ID also no need to change. Then there is application access. Then there is application access which are logged as part of the audit log. As you know, we have server logs, then we have the worker logs, and then we have third thing which is the audit log. Then we can check all these actions. Sumit, if you can go to the next slide. Now here is the diagram which is representing that how this connected app is getting used. Now as you can see, you have a client application which is here in between above the client. You can stop me whenever it is required. I'm just explaining this example wherein you can see the third party application is providing the easy single sign on. Okay, now if the third party application wants to access some application, what they will do is, if you can see this blue button which is sign in using the Anypoint platform. Okay, along with this simplified user experience, connected apps provides a access or subset to the user information. In this example, the application is going to acquire the access to only view a set in Anypoint exchange without gaining access or modifying the production applications of or APIs. Okay, so as part of this diagram, if you see, there is a blue button which shows about sign in with Anypoint platform. Then it goes into this Anypoint sign in login, which wherein you have to provide your username and password. Now there is another thing which is, if you're authorized to you are as a part of this authorization, there will be this user identity happening. All this part will happen as part of a trust boundaries. This is regular when we are also trying to access Anypoint platform with our username ID. In that case, once it is once it is confirmed that you are the accessible user, or you are identified as a user who can access this API, then you can have a single sign on, and then you can complete your activities. Any questions so far? Or you want me to repeat on certain definition or certain topic?
Any questions? So you can go ahead.
Okay, so as part of this, we'll see the demonstration next, and during the demos, if you have certain questions, you can please speak. So Sumit. Hello, Sumit, are you speaking?
Sumit, are you there?
I think he's trying to speak. I can't hear you all.
So guys, like just Sumit is ready, so I will just try to add some more thing about the connected app. So basically, like the connected app initially a framework enabled by a Salesforce basically. So why we use the connected app basically, like so basically if you want to integrate your MuleSoft with the external application, right, using some standard protocol like SAML or to OpenID Connect, so you can use the connected app basically. The connected app is basically is used to it's a protocol which is used to authorize, authenticate, or provide a single sign-on for your external application. So let's consider I want to deploy my application on your cloud up basically, right? So generally what we does, so we go to Anypoint platform users, we create a username and the password, and we are configuring that username and password in our Mule Maven plugin for deploying your application, right? So there is a other way, so you can make use of connected app for deploying your application. So what you can do, you can create a connected app which is capable of deploying your application. You need to provide the access to that connected app which can do the deployment in runtime manager in particular environment. So those kind of access needs to provide to that connected app. Once you create a connected app, it will give you a client ID and the client secret. That client ID and the client secret can be configured in your Mule Maven plugin for deploying your application. So here what advantage we are getting, we don't have to create any point platform username and password. So if somebody get rid of that any point platform username and the password which has been configured on Mule Maven plugin, so anybody can log in into your any point platform, right? So like, so generally, so let I will give one good example here. So I created any point platform username and the password which have access to the runtime manager, correct? So now if somebody got that Anypoint platform username and password, he can log in into Anypoint platform and he can directly deploy the application also from the GUI itself. But connected app doesn't provide this kind of access. Connected app will allow you to deploy the application using Mule Maven plugin or from the external side, or from the external entity, but it will not allow you in log in into Anypoint platform. So this is the advantage we are getting from the connected app. Okay, so I will take example of the of Facebook. And if some Facebook users wants to log in into your Anypoint platform, so we can create a connected app between a Facebook and your Anypoint platform. So any Facebook users can also log into your Anypoint platform. So that is how. So you have some Azure directory, or you have some, like, there are a lot of other applications. So if you want to provide the if you want to interact with your Anypoint platform services, right, you can make use of connected app. So these are the good example of the connected app. Yeah, Sumit, are you ready with demonstration? Any question on connected app now? Hello, Supriya? Where is Sumit is here?
Sumit,
Yeah,
he
I am
said,
here actually. I am here.
Yeah,
If you
Sumit,
can
can
hear
you
me.
share your screen and just show the demo on like connected apps, like
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Isha, that will be more clear, and people will have more questions on that.
Yeah, just let me know once my screen is visible to you guys.
It is visible.
Okay, so yeah, this is my trial account. So here I will navigate to where where we have connected apps in the access management. So yeah, yep. So in the access management, if you see here is the connected apps section, and today we are going to cover the connected apps section. Connected apps. First, I'll just try to open and create one app, and this is connected apps. So today we are going to cover the demo on client credentials part. There are two types of connected app that we can create. One which act on the behalf of a user, which is user grant types, and another one is the client credentials. So we are more focusing on today's demo on the client credentials. So what is this user grant types? I'll just brief about that. So this requires basically an authentication from a user and are typically used by third-party applications. And more about client credentials is this will perform actions on selected scopes without authorization from an end user. So this type is basically available for only first party applications only. And yeah, so before let's create an app, Mule connected apps. I'll just give a nice name here, and credentials. And before saving it, we have to add the scopes into it. Scopes meaning we have to perform, or we have to assign certain level of access here. So these are all the Anypoint platform level access. So here we just want to deploy a one Mule Maven plugin application having connected apps in it. So we will need the runtime manager access here to create application, read application, and I would say delete. Otherwise, manage settings, I will give the access. Yeah, so these access for now are sufficient enough for me to deploy an application. And this will ask me to for the business groups as well. So here I have only one business group with the environment sandbox. Okay, so this is just kind of FYI. Okay, so here I am about to create a new connected app. So I'll say, okay, so this one, the below one was the one which I have created very early. This one is a new one which I've created just now. So so what we have to do basically, this is my sample Mule application. Okay, where I am not doing anything big enough. Just a listener and just a logger. So we'll just check whether we can successfully we'll be able to call the API or not. So in the POM file, okay, is anyone trying to speak anything?
Yeah, Sumit, like just give some background context. So what Sumit is trying to do, So as I mentioned, like we have like generally what we do. So we configure a Mule Maven plugin, right? Under Mule Maven plugin, either we configure the server and we give the username password in the settings.xml. There's other way, like if you don't want to give a username and the password, right? There's other way. You can give, like as Sumit has created a connected app which generate a client ID and the client secret that Sumit will configure here. So that is why Sumit has configured a like a connected app in your Anypoint platform, and he gave the access, right? Like for the runtime manager and some of the access. So like for deploying application and all those things to that particular connected app. Now, right? So those kind of things has been done by Sumit just now. So like you can deploy your application without Anypoint platform username and the password using connected apps. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, Jitendra. So what client
One
ID?
question here.
Yep.
Like I haven't used this CI/CD anytime with this credentials, but ideally in Jenkins also we do the similar kind of configurations, right? When we pass the endpoint platform, environment client ID and secret. So how this connected app is different from using from the way Jenkins uses it, and the connected app those are two different concepts, or they are achieving the same thing via this?
Okay, I will give the answer to this. See, Jenkins is nothing. It's a CI/CD tool, right? So when again, you will take the one example. We have Jenkins will not directly go and deploy the application, right? For Jenkins, if Jenkins has to do the deployment in the cloud up, so we have to configure a Mule Maven plugin, correct? So you have to configure all the parameters in the Mule Maven plugin. Like in configuration, you will say this is the cloud up deployment. You will pass number of worker and number of what is the worker type. You will pass what in which business group we have to do the deployment, like what is your Mule version, what is your application name, and you will pass username and the password, right? So you will pass the Anypoint platform username and the password. Basically those kind of things you have to configure in your Mule Maven plugin. And in the CI/CD pipeline, you will just say, like, you will say mvn deploy -d mule deploy. You will going to fire that particular command, and most of the time all this variable, you can see it on the screen, they will be the variable, and you will pass all these variable -d mule version, -d xyz, -d username, -d password. Those kind of variable will be passed, so that CI/CD pipeline will do the deployment. But what I'm saying, like, instead of passing the username and the password, why we have to pass the username and password? So if somebody get rid of that username and password, he can log in into your Anypoint platform, and he can do the directly deployment without CI/CD pipeline. Your organization have some process setup, right? Nobody can do the direct deployment from the Anypoint platform. So you have some restriction. But somebody get rid of that particular username and password, he can log in into Anypoint platform, and he can access the runtime manager, right? So to avoid such kind of thing, we will not going to pass username and the password for Anypoint platform username and the password. You don't have to go and create Anypoint platform username and the password for deploying your application. Instead of that, you can make use of a connected app, which is more secure. Like what happens in connected app, even you are giving whatever access you can give it, but the person cannot log in into your Anypoint platform using the connected app credential. So instead of passing username and a password, you will pass a client ID and the client secret, which is generated by a connected app. Okay, so basically what I mentioned in Jenkins, you will configure this client ID and the client secret. In me, you now, instead of like you will fire command mvn deploy -d mule deploy, where you will see -d connected app client ID equals to this, -d connected app client secret equals to this. So that is the difference.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Vicky.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the end user will not be the official kind of user we
Yeah.
can say in the Anypoint platform, but it can connect or it can deploy whatever access we are going to give in this connected app for particular connector. So he or she, the consumer, can basically access that kind of sections. So okay, so the new one that I've created, I'll just copy the new client ID, and this is something. These are the parameters of connected apps: client ID, client secret, and the grant type. So we'll just give this new client ID secret. So what I'm going to achieve here is basically we'll deploy this application in the runtime manager, and we'll see whether we are successfully trying to call this API or not. So just let me just create. Yep. Meanwhile, let me just go to the runtime manager. Okay, so we have successfully created a jar here. So we'll give it.
Sumit, are you not using that mvn deploy -d mule deploy command?
No, Jitendra, I'm just directly deploying it.
No, like then like yeah, okay.
Sumit, just add one other alphabet to that.
Sorry?
Application name, Sumit. Application name is still in red.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Actually, it's the screen got hanged. So
Hi, Sumit. Lavish here. Am I audible?
yeah, you are audible.
So there is a question that if we still have to log into Anypoint platform to deploy the application, then that we can do anyway, right? Then why do we need that connected apps?
Correct. Sumit, that's what I'm saying. Like, why we are doing deployment from here? Like, we have to do that using the Maven mvn deploy -d mule deploy command, because we have configured our pom.xml there, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. Like, if we are doing the deployment from here, right? Can you go to that? Can you execute that direct command, mvn mule deploy? So it doesn't make sense, right? For connected app, if we are logging into that, that is the use case we are doing, right? We don't have to log in into any point platform. That's why we're using the client ID and the client secret. Correct.
Yes.
So you can use the command mvn deploy -d mule deploy. Mvn deploy -d mule deploy. Can you show me the plugin, like Anypoint Studio? Can you go to Anypoint Studio? No,
Yep.
no space, -d.
Yep.
And can you show me this 4 point? Just a minute.
Yeah.
Demo. No, just a minute. Go there. Go to that Mule Maven plugin. Workers is fine. Worker type. Sandbox is fine. Client. You have changed this client ID and client secret, right?
Yeah. I have put it a new one.
Okay. So demo Mule connected app. Yeah. So you can go to this command prompt.
Yes. Mule deploy. The D will be capital, right?
Yeah, D is capital. Just say enter.
One question here, like with this client ID and secret, what we got through connected app, we use the CLI and the Anypoint platform REST APIs with this.
Yes.
Or
So yeah, you can use that. So basically, if you see in CLI, what happens? You create a credentials file, right? Anypoint CLI, you create a credentials file. In this credentials files, there is an option where you can put the connected apps client ID and the client secret, basically.
okay.
Okay, so let me got it right. You got my question right. So basically, like you have a multiple profiles, like other profile, you have a default profile. So like you can have a connected apps profile in your basically, in your file, basically in that credentials files, and you can pass a client ID in the client secret, and you can run your Anypoint CLI scripts, basically. Okay. Yeah, so generally, I think Sumit, I don't think you have configured. Let me just tell you. So basically, you can like have a cloud up deployment where you can pass these three parameters: a connected app client ID, a connected app client secret, and the connected app grant type, basically. So these are the three parameters. So you don't have to pass a server, and like you don't have to pass username and the password, basically. Okay. So you can avoid that passing. You can avoid passing those things. Instead of that, you can pass this client ID, client secret, and the grant type for deploying your application directly to the Anypoint platform. So you don't have to pass your username and the password, anything like that. Okay, these are the parameters you need to pass. Okay, so that is how you can do the cloud up deployment, and this is only like valid for the cloud up deployment. Okay, not it doesn't allow at other places, basically, or it can be also valid on when you are deploying your application to ARM, basically Anypoint runtime manager. So basically, if your control plane is in the in the Anypoint platform, and your data plane in your on premise, so that time also you can use the connected app. I can give the other use cases. So basically, like you have some users in Windows Azure or some other like Windows Azure, like you have a server in the Windows Azure, and like you want to deploy the application from that particular server. Your Jenkins is running in some Windows Azure, basically, and you want to deploy your application directly to on cloud up. So you can create a connected app between your Azure and between your Anypoint platform, which can be used for deploying your application, basically. So that, apart from that, it also support various grant type like authorization code, implicit code, refresh token, everything. So generally what happens here, you don't have to do OAuth. So connected app will do for you. You just pass a client ID and the client secret to the connected app, and rest of the thing will be taken by the connected app automatically. Okay.
Yeah. Also, I would like to cover these two sections. So, what is owned apps and authorization? So, this owned app is something we can add apps, these connected apps in the owned app section, and this authorization tab is just to manage app access in this section. So, you can use authorization section to manage which app are authorized to access your users' data. There are two types of authorization we can say in there, the policies we can say. So if you go in the configure, so by default it's unrestricted policies enabled. If you change the policy to restricted, the application whitelisting will get enabled, and all the existing authorization that we have will be added automatically. No, it's unrestricted only. And also the real-time example that I wanted to give on the connected apps is basically if you go through on these real-time APIs like login with Gmail automatically. So because Salesforce is already connected with Gmail, so they a single sign-on with Gmail. So we can have this single sign-on experience with various kind of third-party applications.
Yeah. So other example I can take for the Anypoint community manager, basically. So you might be knowing like Anypoint community manager, where you can publish or where you can publish your catalog of the APIs, basically, right? So where also you can use the connected app. So basically you register your domain for Anypoint community manager in the Salesforce, and now you want to connect to the Salesforce. So for Salesforce, MuleSoft is the external application, and you want to connect to the Salesforce. So you can create a connected app in the Salesforce, and you can connect your MuleSoft can connect to the Salesforce. So this is where you can make use of your connected app. So there are many use cases where you can make use of a connected app. So it's a recently, not that too much old, like 1 year old feature which has been introduced by the MuleSoft, basically. Okay. Any question on connected app?
One question here, Sumit, in the form file, can you see like if you are passing the environment details, because it's showing us that it's not able to achieve. So just check
Yeah,
once.
Yeah,
Which
environment is
environment?
sandbox, the
No,
one which
but where? Okay, so this one.
sandbox it's already
Okay.
we have sandbox. Yeah. Yep.
So Sumit, the client ID and client, the grant which we have generated. So can we use it across all the environments, or is it specific to a single environment?
Yeah, so whenever I created this connected admin, so if you have seen like it will ask for me like which environment I need to give it access for and which business group. So in that way we that level of access we want that we will give like while creating this connected app on the access.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything else, Sumit? Any question before I go to a dynamic client registration demo, basically, So is there any question? Okay. So, okay. Okay. So let me share my screen and like we will discuss.
Jitin, one question. So when we are creating connected apps, especially the one which is like on behalf of the user, so is it like the user who is creating the connected app, or who's?
No, it has to be created by admin, like the person who have access to Anypoint platform. He need to create a connected app, basically.
So I mean, how it is means on behalf of the user. So which user is that, or is it means? And if it is related to a particular user, is it like
No.
restricted to that user's scope of access
So
and?
when you are saying on behalf of user, it means it's an external user whom you will going to share your client ID and the client secret. Okay, so it means you are creating a client. It's saying on behalf of the user, so it means you are creating a connected app for some third party user, and once the connected app is created, you will share that client ID and the client secret to that third party user. In our case, it's a Mule Maven plugin is our third party user whom we are sharing that client ID and the client secret for deploying our application, basically. Okay, is this your question, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Jitendra, question, Jackie.
Yeah, go on.
So, is it correct to say that system APIs would qualify as connected apps?
See, connected app and this system API, it's a different thing, basically. Connected API is basically used for authentication and the authorization purpose. Yeah, okay, I got your question. You mean to say like, see, these are the credentials. You are generating the credentials. System API is something different, right? That is used for accessing the data from your system of records, basically, right? It's nothing to do with access. But
even external system going via system API. So, will those be qualified as connected apps?
see, basically it's simple. Like if your external entity wants to connect some of your platform services, right, and you want to perform some of the task on your platform, right, so for that we use the connected app. So external client can connect to connected app, and that connected app do the authentication and authorization and make sure like you have valid access to those resources to perform that particular task or particular operation. So those kind of thing has been taken care by the connected app, basically. So when somebody asks me like on behalf of users, so basically what does mean? So like sometimes what happens, you can also configure a Okta, like if you want, like as your authorization port. So yeah, you are almost you are correct. In that case, the connected app is something which can connect to some systems like Azure, like to Okta, to Ping ID Federation, or like XYZ OAuth provider, and it will do the authorization for you, basically, the connected app. But the end user will only get a client ID and the client secret, basically. But the internal, like if you are performing OAuth, it take lot of process, right? We have to generate token, we have to generate XYZ, right? So that will be taken care by your connected app, basically. You don't have to worry about that, but you just have to pass a client ID and the client secret to connected app. Is this your question, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got your point where you have said, okay, it's provide the facility and you control the access or the credentials. But I'm just trying to relate, okay, if someone is calling our API, and whereas it can be other way around as well, the request going out from the connected app as well, which, as per my understanding, was happening in the system API world. So with the introduction of the connected app concept, so out of that, what would be the ideal scenario? Still, I'm not very clear about.
See, system API is different thing. I told you, right? System API is something different, nothing to do with the connected app. Basically, connected app, I mentioned, like, it's basically is used to access, or it is used to authorize it. It provide the authorization or authentication to third party, like third party client, like to access or to perform some task on your platform. Basically, system API is something different. If you want to add, like, if you want to add authentication authorization on the system API, that you can use the client ID enforcement policy or some other JWT validation policy. That's something different. But when it comes to connected app is mostly used to access your platform services. If you want to perform anything on the platform, it's nothing to do with your system API, process API, and experience API.
Oh, so
So
we are saying this is a way we are exposing our resources or our functionality in a controlled manner to the external world.
Correct. That is what I'm saying. Like, system API is something different. You have a policies. For experience API process, you can apply the policies for authentication authorization purpose. But for accessing to authorize or authenticate your platform services, like if you want to authenticate your authorization, like, this person can do particular deployment, right? So those kind of things can be taken care by this. It does a kind of identity management basically for you, basically.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
So, Jitendra, is it right to say that that connected apps will be used to manage the access at the platform level, but not at the asset level?
Correct.
For
See,
assets, we have policies, right?
again, like, again, I will tell you, if you are having some assets in the Anypoint exchange, right? So that,
Yeah.
again, those assets at your platform, basically. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
You can use that, basically, right? You can access that. But for APIs, when you deploy something in the runtime manager, like system API, process API, and all those things, right? So those are the APIs. For that, we have a policies. See, if you are accessing any resources on the platform, like Anypoint exchange assets, you can do from connected app, basically. See, once you get the Anypoint exchange access, right? If you want to fetch the detail for your I will tell you, I can give one example. If you want to fetch your details for your assets, basically, that you can do that. Such kind of operation can be performed with the connected apps. But for calling REST API, experience API, system API, you can use some other you have a API manager policies. You can use that. You are right.
Yes.
Like, it is mostly used to access a platform services, basically, any platform assets, basically.
Yeah. So, platform access should be controlled by this.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Got it.
I think, Jackie, I will like to add one point here, which
Yeah.
will make the example you have already given here, which I think Sumit has performed. So I'll tell you that scenario in our organization. Like, we have a CI/CD setup, and earlier we have provided the username and password to them, and they are supposed to deploy through the CI/CD. But what they're doing, people doing is they are taking benefit and using that same credential and going to the Anypoint platform just to overcome that CI/CD part, and they're deploying directly there. So in that case, connected app help us to restrict those users which cannot come directly to the Anypoint platform. They have to come via CI/CD. There is no other option for them. That's what I think, Jackie, you explained with this.
Correct. Yeah, that is one of the main advantage. Let's consider what happens if you are giving the access to runtime manager to Anypoint platform username. Somebody got, let's consider somebody got the username password for the production, right? You can log in into your server, and if you can delete the application also, like, so, like, in that case, a connected app is very useful. Like, like, the person will not able to log in into your Anypoint platform directly. That's a good example you have given, like, so where you can simply configure a client ID and the client secret in your pom.xml in the Maven plugin, and you can deploy your application. You can update or you can modify your application, basically, or you can even, like, you can access various platform services also. Okay, so other example, like, even when I'm doing some deployment, i want to, like, make sure, like, I get verified by with some OAuth provider, basically, right? Some external entity want to do the deployment, so connected app can do for you. Basically, you don't have to do the or like you don't have to perform OAuth kind of things. It will do. Connected app will automatically do for you. You just have to pass a client ID and client secret to connected app, and connected app will do for you all this authorization mechanism and all those things. So these are the advantage we are getting from the connected app basically.
So Jitendra, I have a query. Like all the scopes that you created while, like Sumit created while creating connected apps, these can be done while doing it in business group also. Like we add users and we create business group and add scopes to that users, right? So these things can be done over there also. So
no, but still, like let's take example. I want to deploy the application, right? You will definitely give the access runtime manager, select the environment. He will say he can deploy the application. Once he get that access, he can access the runtime manager, right?
Yes.
Correct. So basically, connected app is, I will not say like you cannot do with that Anypoint platform username and password. You can do it basically, right? You can do the same thing, but there are some benefit, like you cannot access the GUI web application directly using the connected app, right? Even like if you want to perform the authorization, like authorization code kind of OAuth mechanism, the connected app will do for you, and then it will allow to deploy your application. So those are the multiple things can be. Let's consider I have a Facebook, and Facebook user has to do the deployment, right? So you cannot do directly, right? There is a authorization mechanism. There is some OAuth kind of mechanism where we have a grant type equals to authorization code. If user perform that particular operation, it may take some time. He will go and generate the code, then he will generate the token. If he will pass that token in that bearer token, so that whole process will be taken care by the connected apps, and the client ID and the client secret which share with the user, he will just pass that, and we can able to do the deployment. So these are the advantages. These are the things cannot be done using the Anypoint platform username and password, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So can I go to next topic? So it's just next topic is just 15-20 minutes topic, and it's interesting also. So we will talk. Yeah, we will talk about the dynamic client registration. So like anybody heard about what is a dynamic client registration? It's one of the feature provided by OIDC, OpenID Connect, and like MuleSoft is completely supporting that particular feature. So what is that OIDC Connect?
So it's a basically protocol, I think, which sits on top of OAuth, where we can do the authorization and authentication of external user if you want to connect with our application dynamically. So we can authorize him, grant him different type of access scopes, and then this way he can connect to our application.
Yeah, you are right. So generally, it's a protocol which is sit on the top of OIDC, like on the top of OAuth 2.0. Correct.
Yeah.
So that is the protocol. But what are the advantages we are getting? So generally, what we do, like if we are integrating our APIs with some third-party provider like Okta, we have a Ping, we have some XYZ. So what we have to do, we have to give a client ID and client secret. We have to create the application in Okta, and we have to give a client ID and the client secret. Can we do this automated? Okay, is it possible to generate a client ID and the client secret automated instead of go and create the manual in your Okta or any OAuth provider? So there is where a dynamic client registration come into the picture. So basically, a user can generate its own client ID and the client secret from the developer portal, basically, or from the Anypoint Exchange. If you have access to developer portal, or if you have access to Anypoint Exchange, he can definitely do that. He can generate its own client ID and the client secret. So those are the things can be done using the dynamic client registration. So apart from that, like basically using the dynamic client registration, you can automatically create a client in the OAuth provider. So we will see that directly with the demonstration. So I will tell you where it is very useful. So recently, if you see in Europe, there is a project called Payment System Directive 2, and there is a project called Open Banking. So where these things come very handy. Like if some third party want to connect to the bank APIs, so how can they do that? So basically, they have to either request to the bank to provide a client ID and the client secret, right? And the client will. This process may take some time. Basically, you will raise the request with the bank, and bank will look into that request carefully, and and it may take 1 week, it may take 2 days, it may take 3 weeks, depend on the bank. So then they will provide the client ID and the client secret to that particular third party provider, and like it may delay consuming your API basically. So in those cases, there's a mechanism called dynamic client registration where where user can directly, or third party can directly generate a client ID and client secret, definitely that the third party will get verified in between. So there are a lot of verification mechanism, so that happens between to identify this is the correct the request coming from the correct third party. Basically, it is not coming from any false or any fake person, basically. So those kind of verification will be definitely happen, because you are accessing the bank API. So bank API can, it may access a payment detail, it may access your account, it may access your transaction. So definitely there will be n number of security checks when we generate such kind of thing, basically. Okay, so the first thing what we have to do, we can go to Anypoint platform. Basically, in Anypoint platform, I will go to my access management. And also, like, it also can do the identity management. Like, it can basically use the Azure or AWS Cognito to log in into Anypoint platform, basically. So any other AD, any active directory, basically, it can use that and to log in into Anypoint platform, such kind of thing. See, if you see, like, there are most of the organization, their users maybe exist in Azure AD directory or somewhere else, maybe in Okta directory, maybe in Ping Identity Federation directory. So they cannot migrate all users to your Anypoint platform. Like, they have if it's a smaller organization, that's fine. If you have a bigger organization and everybody want to access some developer portal or Anypoint exchange, so it's better to integrate your Anypoint platform with some third party Azure AD where your user exists, right? So that user can directly access your Anypoint platform within that particular organization. So we have something called identity provider and client provider. We will see the client provider, basically. Okay. So in that client provider, I will say add client provider, and I can use, you have it's support for OpenAM, Ping Federate. I can use the OpenID Connect. So any OAuth provider support OpenID Connect can use this particular GUI. So I can say Okta OpenID, and I want to provide all this URL, issuer, client registration URL, authorization URL. So I have Okta in place. So basically, let me log in into my Okta. Then I can say so under Okta, if you go to API and you can go to authorization server, and under authorization server, you can get all the metadata for this authorization server. You can click on default authorization server. You may have a different authorization server, depend, like, for me, I am using just default, and here it's a metadata, and you can find all the URL which we require. So we require a default URL. Issuer means it's some default your domain. So basically, this is my default URL. Then I have to provide a client registration URL. So where you have to register your client, basically, you can find that URL here only. So each OAuth provider a metadata. So you can get that metadata for any, for any OAuth provider. So you can provide a client. You have to provide an authorization header. I will leave blank for now. A client heading, I will leave blank for now. You have to provide authorized URL. So you can find authorized URL at the top. And finally, you have to provide a token URL. Okay. Then you have to provide instruction URL. So let me find that. Yeah, it's there. Okay. Now we have to provide this authorization header. So for that, you have to go back to your authorization server. You can go to tokens. I will delete this one. Let me create a new one. So I can say create token, and I can say it's a mule token. This is all for authentication purpose. These tokens and everything. You can copy this token. Then there's a one thing you need to do. You always prefix SSWS space and this token. So this is like how we prefix with bearer token, like that we have to prefix with SSWS, and you can go back to authorization header, and you can say show is anything in the advanced setting. That's fine. Now client ID and the client secret. So we have to generate a client ID and client secret for one time at least. So you can go to application. Okay, you can say add application. I can say web. Next. Okay, I can say my web application. I can keep everything default, and I can say authorization code only. So it doesn't matter, like, do we just require a client ID and client secret. So it will give a client ID and the client secret. You can copy this. You can go back there, copy this client ID and the client secret, and let me show this. Copy this, go there, you can show it. Okay, these are the configuration we need to do, and you can simply say create. So recently there is some changes in way of creating and way of assigning this particular provider. So now what you have to go do, you have to go to environments once you have created this. Okay, you can select your environment. In environment, you have to select a client provider. So previously what is happening, you can create only one client basically, and that particular client will get default assigned to all the environments and all the APIs. But now MuleSoft have done some changes. You can assign like one OAuth provider to development, one OAuth provider, a different OAuth provider to a different environment. So those kind of things can be done. So now I can select this OpenID Connect. I can say update. Okay, that's the thing you have to do. So you have done with. Now I will create one small API basically. I can say API manager. So let me find one world time zone URL which I can show you. World time zone API. So this is some API I will going to create. I'll copy this much only. I can create manage API, create new API, world time zone API. I can select this as a HTTP API and I can say continue. Okay, it's already there. So I can say to. Okay, so here I can say endpoint with proxy, and I just want for the cloud up, and it's MuleSoft, that's fine. And I want MuleSoft, I can give a implementation URL, and here you can select a client provider. So previously this option is not available. Recently, not recently, like it's 7 or 8 months back, they have introduced this particular option where you can select a provider. If your environment is assigned with 2 providers, so you can select that, those things. So those are the things you can do it here. Then these are the simple things. Save. Four 4.0, I can say let me world time zone API proxy. Okay, and you can say deploy. So then later, like now if you go to policies, so by default that OpenID Connect policy is not visible in your API manager. So you can simply say apply new policy. Now it should be visible, because once you configure that OpenID Connect, you can see that policy. Generally it should be there. Yeah, it's there. OpenID Connect Access Enforcement Policy. You can click this. Configure policy. So a lot of time I have seen this question like in the forums, why OpenID Connect Access Policy is not visible, right? So that is the reason, like you have to first configure your OpenID provider, then you will be able to see that policy basically. Then also you have to provide the scope. I can go with OpenID scope. contain all scope. I don't want to do any client validation. You can simply say apply. Okay, so let me go back to my API manager. Not API manager, I want to go to runtime manager. Let's see if application is deployed. It's deploying. So let me copy this URL. Deployed. Let enter Control V / I can say Asia Kolkata. Okay, the access token was not provided, so that is fine. So now what we will do, like we talk about dynamic client registration, so we can do one thing. I can go to Anypoint Exchange. Time zone API, I can click here. I can make this, I can share this. Either you can request the access from here, or I can share this, or I can save this as a public version 1, save it. Okay, I can go to asset list. I can go to public portal. So somebody asked me what is the importance of domain. Here you can see your organization domain in this particular developer portal basically. So that is where a domain come into the picture. Okay, and this is your like API. Let me do one thing. Okay, let me click on. I think some. Okay, so like we will directly do it from there only. So that's fine. Like something is getting hidden. So you can say request access. So once, okay, and you can create a select API instance protection, and you can create a new application. So I can say a Mule demo app. Then if you want to, these are optional, and what grant type I want, and where you want your redirect token, HTTP local host. You have to provide a callback URL. So I can say 8087 callback. Okay, so this is my callback URL. This is very important. I will tell you why. Just keep in mind we have to provide a callback URL. I will explain that why we want this create. So now you can say request access. So you got your client ID and the client secret. Let me copy this. Okay, let me copy this. The next thing I want to verify whether it has created a client in Okta. So previously there was one application. Now there should be two applications. You can see there is a two application, right? The one thing you can assign this to group also. But see, this feature is not available in my, but by default this feature will be available in yours. Okay, so not like in the enterprise version, so it can be done automatically, but the feature is not available with me. So I have assigned that user to that particular, and you can see this particular application get registered. You can open that and check whether whatever callback URL you provided, that is correct or not, you know. So I provided
one question.
Yeah.
So will it create a application every time a user is coming?
No, like once you get your client ID and the client secret, right, you can use that client ID and client secret for your future communication. So there can be n number of clients. Each client will get a different client ID and client secret, right?
Okay.
Correct. So they can access. See, now you have organization 1, you have organization 2. Both organization having access the API. So both organization will have a different client ID and client secret. Once they have generated client ID and client secret, they can use forever basically. It depends, like, if they want, if there's a policy, if you want to change after 6 months, so you can set up such kind of policies in your API like Okta, where the token will automatically revoke after 6 months basically. So they have to generate new after 6 months, like that.
Yeah, that I got, but like when you configuring the policy, so you have given client ID and client secret initially. So
No, not in the policy. I give the client ID and the client secret in the dynamic client
yeah,
registration.
in the
That is
dynamic
the
client registration. So
yeah.
how we got those client ID and secret? Are those for an
So
application?
first time you need to register that application, which I have done it, right? So first time I have registered this application, Mule Demo app, correct? No,
Yeah.
no, not Mule Demo app. The first time I registered that my web app. Okay. See, now let example. Now Anypoint platform is accessing your Okta. So there must be authentication mechanism between Anypoint platform and Okta also, right? So for this particular application, my web app, right,
Mm.
that is used by Anypoint platform. So we have configured all these credential on your Anypoint platform dynamic client registration application. You have seen that, right?
Yeah. So it is not for some client. It is for any point
Yeah.
platform, right?
Yes, yes. It is for Anypoint platform. So this is which we have generated dynamically, right? A Mule
Yeah.
Demo app.
Yes. Yes.
That is for that particular client. Now I am the client basically. I want to access my API. And when I try to access my API, getting the access token is not provided basically. Right. So I went into my developer portal. I try to request access. I generate a client credential dynamically. So once I generate the credential dynamically, so there is a client URL which I've configured, right? So this client URL will register that particular user into that particular user or that particular client into the Okta. So for registering that particular client, there should be some authentication mechanism between Anypoint platform and Okta. So for that, it will use my web app.
Yes, I got it.
Yeah. Okay. So you got it right.
Yeah.
So can I move ahead?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now I will explain one scenario what we will try to do now. So I have a picture. Let me check where it is. Is this one right? So let me maximize it. So basically we will do something like this. So generally when we talk about the authorization code basically, so what happens, so now client got a client ID and the client secret using dynamic client registration. So now client has to generate the token. So client will send a client ID to authorize URL. Okay, this is Okta. Just forget about AWS Cognito. It's Okta. So it will send to the Okta. Okta will verify a client ID and it will redirect to the 302 redirect, and it will open the screen where you have to put username and the password. Once you put username and password, that particular resource owner will validate that username password and give the consent. And authorization code will send a code or authorization code on the callback URL. So basically it will send authorization code on the callback URL. So now we will send all authorization code, client ID, client secret to authorization server. So on the token URL. So it will validate and return the access token. Now we can use that access token for accessing our resources in our within our Anypoint platform. So let me show this with demo. The first thing we will try to send a request to this AWS Cognito server. So what I will do, I want authorization URL. So for that, I will copy this authorization URL. Okay. So I will copy somewhere here. We have to pass some parameter. The first parameter I have to pass a client ID as a query parameter. So this is my client ID, which we have generated using dynamic client registration. Then I have to pass something called scope. So there is a mule scope which I've created in this Okta. You can pass OpenID also. Then we have to pass a redirect URI. So this redirect URI must be match whatever we redirect URL we have configured during the dynamic client registration. Local host, it's 8087 I think, and slash callback. The state it's just for verification purpose, but if you are not using that is also fine. Let me check if I pass everything. Client ID is pass, scope, redirect URL. So there is I think one more type which is response type we need to pass, which is equals to code basically. So these are the things we need to pass. So I will go back. So now let me log out of this Okta. Otherwise, it does single sign on. Let me control V. So now what is the first step I am performing? So now like I am client, I am passing request to authorization server. Okay. The 1 minute. What is the bad request? A redirect URI must be the. Let me check. I have what redirect URI I have give. Okay, I spelling mistake. I told you right that URI must be matched. Yeah, now everything is fine. It redirect me to the screen where I can put the username and the password. So I will put my Okta registered username and the password. Now it will give me a authorization. If everything is fine, it will give me back. You can see you got a authorization code back on your redirect URL. Generally, why we pass the state, whenever we get the response, we can verify whatever state we pass it, the authorization code coming in on the same state. It's just for verification purpose. So now we got authorization code. So what we have done till now. So let me show with diagram. So we pass all this detail to authorization URL. Authorization URL redirect me to the resource owner. Resource owner authenticate, and we get the code back. Now we have to generate a token. So for that I need a token URL. So for that I need a token URL. So I can go to metadata, I think, and I can copy this token URL. Okay. In this control.
Jitendra, from an end user perspective, how we are going to get all these things?
So we have to provide this to end users, like this URLs and everything. We have to mention somewhere in the developer portal. So these are my like authorization URL. These are my token URL that we need to provide to end user basically. And we need to provide one. See, as I mentioned, if somebody get directly client ID in the client secret, right? It's not good thing. Like you can directly access it, right? Because there can be some fake user. So we have to provide some username and password to them, so it can do the it can also get authenticated. So these things we need to provide to the end user. At least we have to mention somewhere in the developer portal, basically.
Okay.
Okay. So now for token, we have to pass some parameter. So we have to pass a client ID for generating the token. We have to pass a client secret. We have to pass the code we generated from authorization code. Also, it is recommended to pass the redirect URI even we are not doing anything. It for matching purpose. And also I think some parameters grant type. This it's in this case it's authorization code. Redirect URL will be http localhost 8087 slash callback, and the code I have to generate it again because it get expired within like 30 or 40 seconds. You have to provide a client ID. You have to provide a client secret. Let me check if I'm missing anything. Yeah, we have to pass one header. If you are passing the query parameter, you have to tell that using the content type. It's a URL encoded parameter. Yeah, something like that. You have to tell that. Okay. So now let me go back to, I want to generate a new code because it may get expired. So better to generate a new. This time, like, where is my URL? Yeah. What happened? Yeah, again, callback spelling. That's fine. Yeah, copy this code and go back to param. You can pass this code and send the request. One minute. A client invalid value for the client ID. Let me check why it's invalid. let me check in my Okta, have I copied wrong or something that. So let me go back to Okta. It's fine. I don't think it should be wrong. Why it's invalid coming? Just a minute. Whether it is working fine here. A client ID, client secret.
Jackie, can you check the spaces in the values if you don't mind? One more time.
No, there is a no space issue. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Why it is saying invalid value?
Parents or it would be adult.
No, we generally pass a client ID and the client secret, as like this only. So it's saying invalid value. Let me check, I will fix this. So no issue on that. Authorization code callback is perfect. Let me go back and generate tokens once again. Because if it's invalid, like, it may not get verified here, it get invalid here also. So, okay, I got the problem, I think. I got the problem, I think, like, I got the problem. I think I haven't give the scope. That might be the reason. Let me copy this. Yeah, call me. I have to correct this spelling somewhere. Fine. Because client ID is valid, because if you see it's working here, right? So it is valid. Copy this. And give it this code. Let me check. Hopefully this time we will get successful response. Why invalid? It's saying scope. Let me better do one thing. Like, I will generate a new client basically. Something is gone wrong. So let me go to Anypoint platform quickly. So it will take 2 minutes for generating a new client. So I can say request access. You can select a production. I can create a new application. Mule app authorization code, and you can say callback. Okay. Or other way, there's other way we can do it. Let's see, like, if it works from here. So well and good. I can say request access. Yeah. Okay, scope is there. It should work. So there's other way we can do. If sometime, so let me do with this particular thing. So I can say OAuth2, and here I can select authorization code. I have to change this URL there. Then basically I can go back to my Okta. You can click here. Okay. I can edit this. I can change this callback URL. save. I can give a postman callback URL better. So you can give this callback URL. Authorization server is fine. Client ID, it's again this one. And this is my client secret. And yeah, we state is fine. You can say get new access token. Yeah, it redirect me to the then sign in. Yeah, we got access token. Okay, so yeah, you got this access token, and like you can say use this token. I got the problem. I will tell you what is the problem. I will tell you. I forget to pass one parameter, that is why. So we got that access token, and let me use that particular URL no, which we are getting this access token. Let me pass this and it should work. And so required scope, okay, so that's fine. Like the required scope are not authorized. Let we can do one change. This is good error. Why we got this error? Can anybody tell me why we got this error? Generally we should get this error. Why we got it?
Not added the scope which is present there.
Maybe in the API
So I
manager
will
we have to add the scopes basically.
no, we have already add the scope.
Huh?
I will tell you why. So basically you can go back to again authorization server. So I have added the scope as an open ID. I haven't added as a mule
Oh,
scope. So I have used as a open ID basically, right? You can say get new access token. Okay, proceed. Use token. Send. Yeah, that is fine. 404 not found. That is it should be get basically. Yeah, we got the successful response this time. You can see that, right? So why we got this error? Initially forbidden. If you see here, so if you see to policy, if you go to policy, if you go to OpenID Connect, and if you go to edit, if you see I've configured the scope as an OpenID, right? You can have a different, you can have a multiple scope, like multiple scope. But I have just supported. You can have a mule scope like that. If you support multiple, right now I have given one, and initially token generated with mule scope. That's why it's giving me error, right? The scope is not correct. Okay. Any question on this? And I will tell you why it's not working with me. Initially when I am passing the parameter, params. So we have to. I forget to pass state also. That's why it's giving the invalid client. I need to pass the state also. Okay, that is what I have done the mistake. Okay. So any question on this on dynamic client registration?
Yeah, Jitendra, so how can we limit the scopes? So suppose I want to give only read scope, not write scope. So how can we?
Yeah, that. Okay, so in that case, you can apply so at a configuration a specific method basically. So you just give all the read. You can map only a get scope. Only you can say get only, and you can simply say slash dot star. It will allow only read get operation. It will not allow post operation. So those you can apply other specific methods and resources. That is how you can do that. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is how you can apply. Okay. Any question? Any other question before we move into queues? No, right?
no.
Okay. So thanks for token. Do you need a bearer? Yes, yeah, I will show you. This is the good question. Basically, if you go to authorization, right? Headers. So in headers, if you see hidden, it will append bearer and then space, then token. And this is a JWT token, and basically each JWT token have a 3-part header, body, and this like footer like kind, those things. So David, is this your question, right? So we definitely have it automatically append the bearer token. Yes. Okay. So basically, see, Nikunj, like for dynamic client registration, one of the advantage, like the client, end user can automatically generate a client ID and the client secret by themselves. Other advantage, like you can do the identity management using OpenID Connect, basically. Correct. So that is the also one of the advantage, basically. So one dynamic client registration, like the main advantage, like the user can be registered securely, basically. You can generate a client ID and the client secret. If you have a lot of, let's consider for internal organization, you lot of people are accessing your API and they want to generate their own client ID and client secret. So you cannot go and give the client ID and client secret to everyone, like no. So you can provide the page, they can directly generate the client ID and client secret for them, Nikunj.
And Jitendra, if in some use case, if suppose we want client not to be registered dynamically, we want to do certain kind of authorization, whether he's
Yeah.
the right person or not. So how can we do that?
So basically, you enable the certification based authentication within that dynamic client registration. If you see, there are options available, right? So if you see, when I configure this option, so basically what happened, there are some certificate authorities, basically. Okay. So like I will give one example of open banking. In open banking, and like anybody can come and generate a client ID and the client secret. But how we will validate, like this is the true person, he's not a fake guy, right? So in that case,
Yeah.
the certification validation come into the picture. So where there is a certificate authority, they give one certificate to third party. So it's some like it's some legal entity, basically. It's a authority from some government, basically. Okay, in open banking. So they give a certification number, certificate to each third party want to generate a certificate. So they will connect to that authority, they will validate third party, and they will give the certificate to that authority. Okay. So now before once we generate the client ID, see, when it will request for client ID and client secret, we will give it. So right, and also at the same time, he has to pass some certificate, like when he will try to access this APIs, right? So you have to pass some certificates. So those certificates will get validated before actual authentication. So there is option when you configure that OpenID Connect, right? So you can configure the certificates also.
Okay.
So that is how it's get verified. So there's a good diagram on open banking I can share with you right now, like so where how it's happened, like it shows like it go and verify the certificate with some any third party. One certificate get validated, right? So then it gives the access to API. If third party say this this particular person is not registered in my my or my authentication, right, in my store, basically. So it will reject it there itself. The request will never come inside to us. So, okay, so directly we cannot give the access to everyone, client ID and client secret, right? So it is not a good thing. Also, we should have some kind of mechanism. So that is where certificates validation, like extra level of authentication, or like come into the picture. Okay. And also, if you see, like we have to give like we are using the authorization code, right? A grant type equals to authorization code. Again, we have to give some username and password. So even we get a client ID and client secret, we have to give a username and password to them, basically, right? Correct. Otherwise, even they have a client ID and client secret, they cannot access our API. They have to do the authorization code. They have to generate that authorization code before actually they generate the token, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Any question? So, Nitesh, can you start your quiz?
Yeah, sure, Jackie. So today we have Kahoot, and I'll be sharing this pin code. Just a second.
And also, guys, like it's very important to give the feedback after this session, like if where we can improve ourselves, like So yeah.
Okay, so I'll share my screen. Please confirm once you see.
Not yet.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Like your screen is not visible, basically, no?
Okay, yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
No.
Nitish, it is visible.
Hello.
Sir, I don't see him in the call.
Let me call him. Just give me 2 minutes. Like.
त्यांना म्हणलं मंगळवारी इथे आता पोशाखच घेऊन जाते.
Nitish is coming back. He's back.
तर न्यायला लागल त्यापेक्षा मग काहीतरी दुसरं गिफ्ट न्यायला लागल ना. हा मग आता जाऊ दे पोशाखच घेऊन जाते.
Can you please go on mute?
तांदळाची भाजी आणलेली नसते का ती छोटी वाली ती. ती आणलेली मेथी शेपून आहे तुम्ही.
JK, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, Nitish, can hear you now.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Nitish, we can hear you.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Could you please share your screen quickly? Like, we can take the quiz quickly because people are already getting late.
Just a moment. I'll just, okay. Okay, please confirm once you see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, okay. So today we are going with Kahoot. So this is how it looks. So you will have a question here. I'll give you the pin. It's not an actual one. It's a dummy one. The question will be here. You'll get options here and you can connect it from your phone and you just need to press the colors as per the answer. Fine.
Okay.
So you can just go with kahoot.it, the URL, and the game pin is this.
Yeah, so everybody can move into that. Just we can give it 2-3 minutes. Like you can log in into this particular www.kahoot.it and just put this particular pin 3258162.
Yes.
So we have a first Ajay, David.
Yeah.
We need 20, like at least 24-25 people. Speakers are not allowed to register. Okay. An organization.
Yes, yes.
I already registered. Okay, so I won't participate.
You will get the voucher by default. So give the
Yes.
chance to others, no?
To others
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
I want. I have registered, but I won't participate.
SKR, can you please re-log in with your name, not initial, so that there won't be any confusion at the end.
That's fine. Like who is SKR? You can ping me in chat. I think it's Sai, something Sai Kiran.
And NM, because at the end, if name with initials NM collide, so we won't be able to judge who is the actual one.
Okay.
Wait, how many people? There is still 15. Like there are
Yes.
few more people are there.
Yes. Sure.
So guys, we will start at 2:15. Okay, just 1 more minute. So please register as soon as possible. Like
Okay. So I'm going to lock the game now. Is there anyone else who is not able to join or going to join? Because once I lock, no one can enter. So should I go, Jackie?
yeah, you can go ahead now. Like
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I'm locking the game now.
so the exam starts now.
Jackie, please take the screenshot. No,
Do we need a screenshot?
no. Like just for reference. That's it.
That's fine,
Nothing
right?
particular, specific something.
And I've taken the screenshot.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So moving on to next question. So we have Deepesh, Sai, KR, and Amit. Okay.
You're going with second question?
Yes. So 100 was the right answer for business groups can be created within one organization.
Nikunj is asking where are the questions? It will be
It's on the screen. I guess everyone can see my screen.
But they might
see the question on the screen and then go back to Kahoot and just select the color. There you will not see the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Like you can go ahead.
Okay.
So what is the?
Okay. So moving towards next question. Okay. So we have Supriya. Hey.
But it's okay. We can give the rank to the second number. I'm okay with that. Jackie and Nitish, I don't want anything.
Sure. So you please give just one wrong answer so that others can get a chance to be on podium.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So third question now. DCR. Okay. Almost there. Okay. Still we have Supriya, Ganesh, and Deepesh.
But by default, Supriya is out.
Okay. So Tarun has got a chance to be there.
Ganesh is on first, Dipesh is on second.
Yeah.
Tarun Anand, please buck up.
Yeah. Sure. So moving towards next question, we have total of 8 questions. So you still have a chance.
ASN is autonomous system number, true or false? Yeah, it's true. It's a part of your VPN, like when you configure the VPN, where you can configure the autonomous system number. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see the podium. Okay, still we have Supriya. Okay, so now David is in the lead chain. Okay, so
You said you have true false, 8 true false
hello.
questions. 8 true false questions.
What is not valid deployment option? PCG, RTF, PCE, or PCF? Runtime Fabric, Private Cloud Foundry, Private Cloud Edition, Private Cloud Ground.
Answer, Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie already gave the answer. Okay, so let's see the podium now. Okay, so
Yeah, still.
very close, very close. Ajay Santosh. Okay, so next question.
Which one is not a valid grant type? This is the good one.
Confusing, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know most of the people will refresh token only.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bearded
So,
token actually.
podium. Okay. So Sai is leading now.
Okay.
I guess some seconds. Some seconds. So yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, sure.
Supriya, you have to go further down.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So next question. Second last question. Oh, almost 50-50. Okay. So we have new person on podium, Rahul. Okay, so we are proceeding with last question.
Great. But who like Fatal?
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Let's see.
Ganesh.
Okay.
Hey,
Oh,
but
okay.
how do we identify who's fourth?
Okay. We'll get a runner up. So we'll get JV.
Yes,
J,
yes.
J is
Fine, fine.
Yeah.
I'm lost.
So
I'm lost.
yeah. Okay. So JV, Sai, KR, and Ganesh, please share your email ID so that we can mail you the voucher.
Hey guys, I was just playing for fun too. Please give to the next place. I don't have any trainings left to take.
Sorry.
I don't have any trainings left to take. Please give to the next place only. After me, there was the 5th place. I was just playing for fun as well.
Okay.
So who is the 5th?
Who's the 5th one, Nitish?
Okay, sure. We'll just see. Back to podium.
Yeah. So 2nd, 3rd, and 5th position.
Yes. So we'll see Ganesh for sure.
Guys, like if everybody can on their camera, so I can take some pictures. Yep.
So we have JV and Karthik. Lucky day, JV and Karthik.
Nitish,
Yeah.
Sumit, everybody, can you on your camera?
Sure.
Vikram.
Sure. I'll just unshare my screen first.